Hello and welcome to the Continental Testing Ground. This is where day after day we test, compare and improve new developments. Okay, tighter. We are pushing at the limits of stress here for tires, electronic components and brakes. That's exactly what we want to talk about today. And I can tell you, brakes can be a lot of fun. Go! Okay, at least when you know that you can rely on your brakes. We can divide the things we have to do to get brakes working at their best into 3 parts. We begin with a visual inspection, and that starts under the hood. Tobias Stefan, our expert, is already there. Hi Tobias! Oh, sorry. So you see, never forget safety at the workplace. Okay now? Yes, thanks. So Tobias, exactly what have I got to check here? The first thing I have to do here is check the brake fluid reservoir, and then the brake fluid that's in it. The brake fluid ages naturally, and that can cause the brakes to fail. So for that reason it has to be checked. And if necessary, we have to change it. But that's not the only thing that I've got to check here. No, we've got several other components, like the tandem master, brake cylinder and the brake booster. We've got to check these for leaks or damage. Buried deep inside on modern vehicles, we just can't get to them properly. So it's a really tricky task, that's right. But that's not the end of our visual inspection. We move on now to the brake itself. Okay, up she goes. And first of all, we have to understand the difference. What kind of brake is that we've got here? Drum brake, disc brake, what generation of disc brake, which caliper, fixed caliper, sliding caliper, floating caliper, combined caliper with an integrated handbrake, or here we've got the high performance department. Our mechanic answered all these questions long ago, and now we're going to look over his shoulder. Tobias, what's all the stuff that I've got to inspect here? Yes, first of all we start with the contact pattern on the desk. Is the disc discolored? Is it scored? Or is it rusty? Important checks. The second thing is to look at the brake lining. Is the lining evenly worn on one side? Or has it got signs of scoring? Another important point. Then the third thing is our caliper. Is the caliper corroded? Are all the moving parts actually able to move freely? That's something else we have to check. So let's say that I find out that the linings are worn and so is the disc. Then I replace it. And now we go on automatically from our visual inspection to the second thing, the servicing, don't we? Not so fast, Volker. We've still got a couple of things that are part of the visual inspection. That would include the brake hose, for example. Is it porous? And there are the brake lines. Are they damaged mechanically, for example? And it also includes our wheel hub and our wheel bearings. They must also be in good condition. So it would be fatal just to replace the things that we can see at first glance. Like we might think the lining and the disc. We have to check everything. And of course anything that shows signs of wear, especially heavy wear, we have to replace by new parts. That's right. But it's just as important that these new parts are fitted properly. For example, that means that the hub must be really clean, so that the alignment of the disc is properly parallel. And of course the linings have to be greased at the right place, so that we don't finish up with noisy brakes. All of these things have got to be done if we're going to have an optimum braking system at the end. And it's only then that we finish point 2, the servicing. As you can see, not a job for beginners. Finally, the action of the brakes is tested on the rolling road. Tobias, exactly what can I read from there? The braking force in kilonewtons. First of all, we go up to 1 kilonewton to see whether the brake disc pulls to the side. After that, we'll go up to the full braking force to check the full effect of the brake. And then we still have to test the whole system under real life conditions. Yes, but not on the road, surely. No, in a closed area. And now that's just what I'm going to do. What? Hey! Okay, then that's what I'll do too. So you see, braking is exciting, but it's also very exacting. It's something to be handled only by real experts. That's why you should stick to ATE's brake professionals. Because we want you to reach your destination safely. And not to overshoot it.
TQ200 Transmission Control Unit Assembly. Disassembly and Installation Tutorial. Disassembly process. 1. Park the vehicle. Shift to P. Park. Engage the handbrake. 2. Turn on ignition. Do not start engine. Connect the vehicle diagnostic tool and ensure proper communication with the car. 3. Operate the diagnostic tool. Navigate to guided functions. Select Transmission Control Unit. Choose Neutral Basic Setting and click Start. Wait for the procedure to complete. Then turn off the ignition. 4. Open the engine hood. Remove the lower engine cover and air filter assembly. 5. Unplug the electrical connector from the transmission control unit J743. Remove the wiring bracket bolts. Then secure and bundle the hardness upward. Avoid pulling or contaminating the connector. 6. Remove the drain plug at the bottom of the transmission and place a container to collect the oil fluid. 7. Remove the cap from the transmission control unit vent port and seal it with a clean, dedicated plug. 8. Detach the clutch lever dust cover. Carefully pull out the transmission input speed sensor G641. 9. Insert the tool between the transmission housing and the two clutch levers. Align the tool band with a transmission rib. 10. Rotate T10407 to the left until the levers are fully retracted and locked. 11. Loosen all mounting bolts in a crisscross pattern. Lift and slide out the unit horizontally. Warning: avoid excessive movement to prevent damage to gear sensor probes. If the unit cannot be removed, the shift actuator may be stuck in gear inside the transmission. In this case, the transmission control module must be manually placed in removal position. A. Reinstall the unit fully and secure it with one bolt. B. Remove the parking lock cover. Press the shift fork in the arrow direction and manually release the stuck actuator before extraction. 4. Installation preparation. 1. Clean the probe of the gearbox input speed sensor G641. Check the operation conditions of the pins of the electrical plug of the transmission control unit assembly and clean them. 2. Clean the dirt at the junction between the gearbox housing and the transmission control unit. Clean the iron dust absorbed by the magnet at different gears. Inspect the wear conditions of the shift forks and check whether the gear shifting process is normal. Keep all shift forks in the N gear. Each shift fork has 3 positions, and they should stay in the middle position. 5. Software program backup. 1. Please connect the TCU according to the pin definitions of the reading or writing device. After successful communication is established, enter the main interface. Select Connect item bar and click Connect for connection. The communication progress is shown in the left status interface until successful appears, indicating 100% completion of communication process. 2. Select Read item bar and click Full Backup for connection. The program backup status is shown in the left status interface until 100% completion of backup process. The signal light remains on when the device operates normally. Check the signal light to determine if the program backup process is normal. 3. After program backup is completed, a prompt window will pop up showing Save ECU file. Click Save Backup Only to save the copied program file. 4. Return to the main interface and select Connect item bar. Click Disconnect to disconnect the device. In the left status interface, you can see that the disconnection is successful after the reading or writing device is disconnected from the TCU. Software program writing. Reconnect to the new TCU that requires programming. Once communication is established, enter the main interface and select the right tab. Click Full Backup. A pop-up window, Upload a file, Full Backup, will appear. Click Select Folder. Navigate to the backup file in the Downloads folder on the D drive. Double-click to open the file, then click Send File. Monitor the progress under the Status panel on the left until it reaches 100% success. 8. Select the Connect tab and click Disconnect. Verify successful disconnection in the Status panel before unplugging the programming device from the TCU. 9. After completing the new TCU programming, use the Volkswagen Factory Diagnostic Tool Access Transmission Control Unit. Select Diagnostic Functions. Measured values. Under Measurement Module position, enter 41 and click Apply. Then click right arrow to check the Measured Value Name column. If the newly written program appears, the TCU programming was successful. Installation process. 1. Remove the filling plug next to the exhaust port and use a funnel to fill oil into the transmission control unit. After filling, please tighten the oil filling plug with a standard torque of 5 Nm plus 90 degrees. 2. Adjust the extension length of the gear shifting actuator push rod of the new transmission control unit assembly to 25 mm. 3. Before installation, make sure that the seal of the transmission control unit assembly J743 is fully adhered to the groove, and the auxiliary guide pin T10406 is installed. 4. Install the transmission control unit assembly and the fixing bolts. Pre-tighten all fixing bolts alternately with a torque of 10 Nm. 5. Rotate the assembly rod T10407 clockwise slowly and remove it. 6. Install the gearbox input speed sensor G641. 8. Remove the gearbox vent cap and fill oil with a specialized filling tool. After filling, reinstall the gearbox vent cap. 9. Matching process. 1. Use the diagnostic device to enter system selection. Enter gearbox control unit. 2. Select 02 reading error code and return to the last page after the error code is eliminated. 3. Select 04 basic system adjustment. Enter the channel number 60. 4. Select adjustment option and wait for the 3 count to change to 400. After the vehicle is started, continue to wait for the 3 counts to change to 25400, which means the matching operation has been completed.
Total equipment value of the firm is 350 million yuan, and more than 100 of the most important pieces of equipment are imported from Germany, Switzerland, Italy, and other countries. The processing accuracy of the apparatus is almost at the micron level.